Oh, hi.
Hello, I got some new seeds from the store.
Nice. What are they?
They're tomato plants.
These seeds don't actually give you that many tomatoes. Like one tomato per season.
There's only like a few seeds in here. Why'd you buy it?
Because it's cheap.
You bought it?
And it had a discount too.
You bought it just because it was cheap?
Yeah.
Today, we are going to discuss how and why we fall prey to PE ratios. PE ratio of a stock is nothing but the price we are willing to pay for each rupee of the earnings generated by the company. In this video, we are going to understand how looking at PE ratio in isolation and not in conjunction with other financial metrics gets us into making bad stock picks. Take the case of two companies A and B. Both the companies have the same PE ratio of 30. Company A launched buyback because of which the PE ratio fell down. What's a buyback? Suppose the company has 1000 shares. The company wants to buy back some shares, say for example 200 shares from its shareholders. Now, how many outstanding shares are there? 800 shares. What happens to EPS if the number of outstanding shares are reduced? Remember, EPS is equal to earnings of the company divided by the number of shares. So, when the number of shares decrease, EPS increases. That means we are redividing the share of earnings pie into lesser shares, so each share increases. Now we are clear that when the number of shares decrease, EPS increases. What happens to PE ratio when EPS increases? Remember, PE ratio is nothing but the stock price divided by EPS. So when EPS increases, PE ratio decreases. So now what happened to the PE ratio of company A because of its buyback? The PE ratio decreased. Let's say the PE ratio came down to 20. Now let's compare the two stocks on the basis of PE ratio. Which one is inexpensive? Looks like based on the PE ratio, you have decided to buy the stocks of company A. So far so good, but just think, why have you decided to buy company A? Did the company streamline its processes or make a smart decision to cut down costs, or did the company do anything adding strategic value to its operations? Without any positive change in the fundamentals of the company or without any expectations of its future growth, why should you invest in the company just because the company had a buyback of its shares and the PE ratio declined? So what I mean to say is, PE ratio can just be altered by any corporate action like buyback. Sometimes companies do that to massage the EPS numbers and trick the investors. So in this case, just investing in company A by comparing PE ratios is just foolish. I would rather select company B if the fundamentals are good. Remember, cheap stocks just don't always make good investments. Another common mistake is to compare PE ratios of companies from different sectors. Take the case of two companies with PE ratios of 40 and 45. Company B looks overpriced and company A looks inexpensive. Company A belongs to utilities industry which has a PE of 25 and company B belongs to FMCG with an industrial PE of 50. Now, when you compare company A's PE with the industrial average and B's PE with the industrial average, the numbers look different. A looks overpriced and B looks inexpensive, isn't it? You shouldn't be comparing apples with oranges. You need to compare two companies within the same industry. We don't realize that PE ratio is a lousy indicator of the debt situation of the company. Company A has a PE ratio of 25, B has a PE of 40. Looks like you're going to choose company A. Now, if I tell you that A has more debt and B has less debt, which one would you choose? I'm not saying that debt is bad for the company. Usually, what happens is, as the debt increases, the number of shares reduce, hence EPS increases, and as a result, PE ratio decreases. On the contrary, if the company declares that it has made an effort to improve its business, the investor sentiment rises. They have more hope for the growth potential. The stock price may increase because of the investor's hope, and hence the PE ratio also increases. In essence, the effect of debt on PE is unclear. There are many levers pulling the PE in different directions, and hence PE ratio may increase or decrease depending on how the debt is utilized and repaid. Instead, we have other great indicators like EV by EBITDA to assess the debt situation of the company. Another point to note is that PE ratio is a very bad indicator for choosing cyclical stocks. Cyclical stocks are those stocks which perform better when the economy is booming and perform bad when there is an economic slowdown. Few examples are automobile, airline, and real estate stocks, which perform well when the economy is doing good and go down when there is a recession. So if we have to pick such stocks, PE ratio is in fact quite deceptive or sometimes worse, meaningless. In case of cyclical stocks, low PE ratios mean the end of a prosperous ride, and high PE ratio signals that the economy is about to rebound and good times are ahead. That's because of the decline and rise of the denominator, that is the earnings. Do your math here.